Hello. Good time of day to you too. Why is my game ugly? Where is my shader pack? Excuse me. Shader pack time. I've frozen everything. There we go. Okay. There we go, that's better. Alright, where am I? I'm at my dad's house. Actually, I want to be at my dad's house. Because... because... He has villagers. He has very many villagers. And I need things. Have the villagers been named? All right. I don't know why the game audio didn't adjust. Alright, I don't got taters. I don't got taters. What do I need, actually? I have aqua affinity. I need water breathing, but I don't think we have a water breathing guy. And breaking. Those poor trapped villagers, they're fine. They have everything they need. They have everything they need. Oh, Depth Strider. 29 and a book for Depth Strider. Okay, I gotta go get potatoes and come back. I can go to my house way faster than running. Weep. Alright, home sweet home. I think we just gather as many potatoes as I have. Got 15 here. Yeah, just 15. Okay. Just 15. Oop. I accidentally bumped the reload shaders button. Okay. Harvest all the potatoes. And then we'll replant them. And we'll go get as many emeralds as we can from that guy. I guess I need books too, huh? Maybe I have some books. I'll go check. I'll go check if I have books. Maybe I have books. So I had a very nice birthday weekend. It felt very long. It was a lot. On Saturday... Long weekends are usually nice. I mean, it wasn't a long weekend. It was, like, a long weekend. It was still the normal weekend length. And it was very nice. But it was also kind of a lot. So, I went to... On Saturday, I went to Costco and then the regular grocery store to get stuff for yesterday, which I had a little birthday celebration with my family. But my friends were like, hey, we're gonna go to the trinket shop. There's a little trinket shop in my town. And they were like, we're gonna go to the trinket shop. And I was like, okay, I guess we're going to the trinket shop. So Saturday was Costco in the morning, and Costco Saturday morning is kind of a lot. There was a lot of people there. So we went to Costco, and then I think we went to Costco at like 10 a.m. And my friends were meeting at 12:30. So I was like, oh shoot, well, I really gotta go. And then we went to the regular grocery store. And then it was time to go to the trinket shop. So yeah, it was just it was a lot of stuff. And then Sunday, we again at like 10 a.m. we went to a pottery painting place. That was really fun. Actually, I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the pottery painting place. I got to paint 2 things because it was my birthday. And I made this little like hobbit house mug, and then a matching pond plate to go with it. It was really cute. I'll post pictures when I get them back. Because I don't think I have any pictures of the. Oh yeah, we got plenty of potatoes. I don't think I have any pictures of just the like uncured version. Thank you, Teledon. Thank you for popping in. But yeah, so it was very fun. I don't think I really got many pictures of anything. Ooh, it's cheaper. There we go. Get all of the delicious emeralds. Oh, he's out. He's out of trades. It's okay, we just gotta wait for a little while, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, and then are there any books in here? There are books in here. No, I will get books. He won't mind. He's my dad. He won't mind. I just gotta take 3. Okay. What do I need? Actually, you know what? I won't take his books because I can get books from the librarians. Who has the cheapest bookshelves? 9. You don't have bookshelves. Ooh. Silk touch for 1? Wow. That's been working hard. 9. 9. 25 for power. Okay. Let me just get... Yeah. Let's get a couple of those. And just break them. Okay. Now we have 6 books. Are you ready to trade again? No. I gotta wait. 9? No. The number. So yeah, everyone came over to celebrate my birthday yesterday. It was really nice. Like my dad was there, and my godmother was there, and my godmother lives in Portland, so it's kind of far away. But yeah, so yay! All right. Can I trade potatoes with you now? They have to sleep, I think. I think they have to sleep for that. Okay. Well. Oh, Archibald 5 is the zombie. I was like, who the fuck is Archibald? It's the zombie. Maybe I have some emeralds at my house. Maybe I don't have to be like doing all this. Yeah, it was really nice. And we played so we did the pottery painting, and then we played board games until it got dark. We had dinner in between then. I don't have any emeralds. No emeralds. Okay, that's fine. I don't have them in some weird place, do I? No, I think my dad took some from me. That's fine. He was setting everything up. It's fine. Oh, that's not where I wanted to go. He's not done yet. All right, let's go back home and I honestly don't know what I'm doing for this stream. I'm just kind of wandering. Could go mining. What do I have on this one? Efficiency and unbreaking. I could go mining. Go mining for a little while. I don't quite know what for, but we'll go mining. I go mining. It's eepy day. I'm just here to hang out. I'm just here to hang out and have good time. I have aqua affinity, but I don't have water breathing. Yeah, so sometimes it's nice to just kind of do whatever streaming a game like this. Makes great background during work. Oh, that's good. I'm glad it makes good background. I found a hole. And a whole block of copper. It's a lot of copper. There's always so much copper. I'm really excited for the copper update, cause I can actually like do stuff. Wait. I need here. Other hold spider, I hold light source. Come on. Okay. I don't know why that resets like everything, but that's fine. Okay, so now I have this in my hand. It'll show me where the dark spots are, so that if there are any dark spots, I won't get ambushed by. I don't know why I'm collecting copper. I could use copper in what I'm building. I'm building a giant tree, and that's kind of my entire plan right now, is to build a giant tree. I just think it's interesting to see the different ways people build out in these games. I think because the game is so flexible, there's so many different ways, and none of them are wrong. Yeah, I like that too. I like that you can kind of see how different people play. Right now, because I'm following a tutorial for the tree, and also I really don't want to be tree farming right now, I'm just kind of like, that's a weird little pocket of water. Oh no. I don't actually need a torch there, I don't think, but it's fine. I want a torch there. 'Cause I do. I left all this copper because I wasn't sure if I wanted it, but I think maybe, especially with the copper update coming, we haven't updated yet to the copper update 121.9, because we are waiting. We're waiting for all of the mods to update, because we do have a few mods on here. Again, weird pocket of water. Weird pocket of water. I don't need a torch here, but I want a torch there. Okay. I must be like under the river or something. Oh, there's iron over here. I don't know how I missed this. Little bit of iron. Now I do. Now I know exactly how I missed it. I ADHD'd. I ADHD'd too close to the sun. Little pocket of iron. And more copper. But yeah, the copper update stuff looks really cool. And I can't wait until we can update all of the mods and stuff. Hopefully they will all get updated and we won't have to do some like weird shenanigans. Cause I don't really like weird shenanigans. That's not true. I love weird shenanigans. Just maybe not in this context. What context? I don't know. Weird shenanigans. Shenanigans. Yeah. I'm just kind of letting my brain do whatever it wants to today, and maybe that's entertaining, and maybe it's not. We'll find out. My brain is connected directly to my mouth today. And so instead of thinking things, I just say things. And we'll find out what that means. We'll find out what that means today. Perhaps it'll be beautiful, and perhaps not. Perhaps not. I tend to overthink a lot, so I don't know, just kind of letting my brain... Ah! Ah! Well, that happened. Diamonds! Nice. I like the diamonds. And redstone. So I should definitely ask you for all your hot takes and maybe your opinions on politics or religion today. Ha! Ha ha. I mean, you could. Ow! Bitch! No! I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die! Okay. Oh no, creeper. Oh no, creeper. Oh no, creeper. Creeper, no creeping! Creeper, no creeping! Okay, it's fine. We're down here now. And we're gonna make the most out of it. We've already got 3 diamonds. That's good. That's... Yep, it's good. Definitely good. Oh, so I was like, why is there pants in the... Okay, this is fine. Yep. See, it's fine. Ah! I don't know why that guy just didn't register in my brain. That guy did not exist. Yeah. That's fine. There's a thing. Okay, well, that's great. Okay, cobblestone, please. Okay. No scaries, no scaries. No scaries. Just chill mining time, no scaries. No scaries. Okay. That's good. That's fine. Everything's okay. I guess we gotta go where that creeper is, huh? Oh, hello. Ah! That's fine. That's cool. Okay. I'm sure I'm walking into a death trap right now. And somewhere along this path will be a spooky scary. No spooky scaries. No spooky scaries. Not allowed. Oh, you blended into the redstone. I said no spooky scaries. Excuse me. I said no. No spooky scaries. Thank you. Okay, gotta go get this redstone. And iron. But mostly the redstone, because my dad likes to come steal my redstone, which is fine, because I don't really use it. But he does take my redstone. I'm just over here mining all the redstone. Okay. Okay. How dare. How dare it blend into the redstone. Or how dare my dad take my redstone. Because that's fine. It's not really a how dare moment. It just is. Oh, hello. Hello. You're really rude. You're really rude for that. That was really rude. Skeleton. Skeleton. My dad and I wanted, we were like, okay, we need a slime farm because we need one slime block to make an oozing potion. And then we can get infinite slime from the skeleton farm. But we needed one slime block first. And so we went to a swamp to get slime. And we're like, surely, there's a lot of iron down here. Surely there will be a slime in the swamp because there's always slimes in the swamp. And there were no slimes in the swamp. So we dug a slime hole, which took forever. And then as soon as we dug the slime hole, there were slimes in the swamp outside of our slime hole. It was very funny. I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, as soon as we don't need them to be out there and we need them to be in here, they're out there and not in here. Great. I love that. Love that for me. But yeah, it was very funny. Very funny, silly. Funny, silly moment. Very eepy. Tired eepy day. Ugh. Sorry. I'm sure I just cursed all of you. Cursed with the yawns. Ah, there's a lot of iron in this vein. This is like a copper vein level vein. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of iron. Wow. There's so much iron. Minecraft, what's up, Kenjamin? How you doing? I'm being very eepy today. It was a lot of activity this weekend. You in 8th reach? Yeah, I'm in 8th reach. The Minecraft server named after my D&D world. Oh, that's an omen. Can't wait to see what you've been working on. Yeah! I'll be out of here in a minute, and then I'll show off. I'll show off my tree a little bit. I don't want to go too much further down because Skulk is scary, but I'm not actually that far down, so I don't know why there's Skulk. Oh, spider spawner. There's so many spawners in this world. Alright, what we got? Flame enchanting book. Got some leather. Let's see. Got 3 cat music discs. Oh my god, I keep finding this dang music disc. Your UI is so fancy. Thank you! It's a texture pack. It's a pretty cool texture pack. And it has, I have a mod that does the little boop when it comes up. I have so many of these texture packs. Or, these music discs. I have so many of these music discs. Okay, andesite. Gunpowder. I don't know why I want to take the music discs with me, but I do. Alright. Ooh! More diamonds. Nice. Mm-mm. 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 Not doing that. Nope. No, thank you. 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 I heard that skulk sensor, and I'm noping the heck out of there. I am noping the heck out of here. Absolutely not. Nope, 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 nope. I don't want to take that risk. I'm not here to take that risk. How do I get back to where I belong? I think it's up there. I guess this is where I fell from. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm out of torches, so let's find our way back home. Time to find our way back home. Which I think, if I am where I think I am, should just be up this way. Oh, hello, fish. just up this way. Okay. Yes. Yep. Here we go. There's my staircase. This cave is just like one big loop. It's very interesting. This whole cave, just one big loop. Okay. Let's go. So here's what I've been working on. Here's my tree. It's gonna get even bigger. And then it's gonna start going out. But I have to do a lot of tree farming for that. I haven't felt like doing it. So I haven't. Also, I'm following a tutorial for that, so I don't really want to do it on stream. Because I think following tutorials on stream is kind of boring. Because, yeah. But the things I'm doing without a tutorial are going to be the inside. So in here is where my thing is. My little spawn point. And then if we go down here, and I'm going to texture these walls and everything. This is where my enchanting room is going to be. Very cool. I think... I don't know. I don't know quite how powerful this enchanting room is going to be, but I don't know. It should be fine. It should be fine. I'm probably mostly not going to be using it. It's mostly there for decoration. Okay. Yes. There's too much stuff in here. And unfortunately there's like nothing I can do about that right now. So we'll just overflow into this one, I think. Even though I don't really want to do that. It's fine. Okay, we have some leather. Not enough to make a book, but I have some leather. So that's kind of nice. Redstone, more music discs. Yes. I don't think my potatoes are ready yet. I guess I do have quite a bit of wood right now. I don't actually have to go material gathering. Where have I been putting coal? I guess just directly in there. Okay, let's go see if I can give more potatoes to the potato guy. Excuse me, potato guy. I have potatoes for you. I feel like we can get him down further. But... let's see, fortune is 7. Depth Strider's 29. Silk Touch is 1. That's kind of nice. Ooh, 1 ink sac for emerald. I have a ton of ink sacs. Hang on, hang on. I have a ton of ink sacs. Cause I was gonna do something where I was gonna use dye, but oh, there's no, I swear I had more than 7. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I have 32. That means 32 emeralds. Oh, that's amazing. That's incredible. Let's go. Okay, which one? Which guy? Which guy was it? This guy. Yeah, that's great. There's also one book. Let's see. How much is mending? 26? Affinity. We still don't have a water breathing guy. Depth Strider 3. And then this guy is Depth Strider 3. Oh, okay. Oh, and one for mending. Okay, so let me get a Depth Strider 3. And a bunch of mending. Oh, and he also has ink sacks for emeralds. Really cheap. Okay. One breaking. 5 ink sacks for 1 emerald. It's not as good, but it's pretty good. I need an anvil in here. Is there an anvil? No. We need an anvil in here. Let's see. Is there anything else I really need? Depth Strider goes on my boots, I think. Silk Touch. One of I should get a Silk Touch. Oh, I need more books. Does anyone have a cheap book trade? I just want books. It's 4 for a bookshelf. 9 for a bookshelf. 9 for a bookshelf. 9 for a bookshelf. 9 for a bookshelf. So I think 4 for a bookshelf is the cheapest we've got. Okay, let me get a couple of those. Get a few more books. And then what did I want? Silk Touch? I think it was Silk Touch. Okay, so I get a Silk Touch. Fortune. Definitely want a fortune. Power. Aqua Affinity, Loyalty, Quick Charge, Mending, Efficiency. Efficiency 5. But I don't think I can add. Like, I don't think I can add efficiency. Mending. That's true. Let's just round off with more mending books, because I know we'll need them eventually. Okay, and then my dad has an anvil somewhere. I know he does. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So Depth Strider goes on the boots. Mending goes on the boots. Mending goes on. Mending goes on here. Mending goes on here. Diamond Sword has mending. This does not have mending. And I also want to give it fortune. This one is getting Silk Touch. Oh, I broke the anvil. Okay. I'll make a new one. I have iron at home. an anvil here? I might have an anvil here and I just broke my dad's anvil for no reason. It's fine. I do! Okay, we'll finish up here and then I'll make him a new anvil. Okay, mending. And then we'll just mending everything else. Oh, enchantment cost. We'll mending everything else later. For now, I got some iron. Make my dad a new anvil. All. Okay. Oh, and we can go to the skeleton farm. His anvil was there. We can go to the skeleton farm and get some experience to continue enchanting everything. Should be good. Should be good. It's this way, I think. Pretty sure. Where's the skelly farm? It's in my dad's house. Prankster's house. I think he also has a spider farm coming, maybe? But I don't know where he put that, so we'll see. His area is kind of like a maze. It's very complicated to get around. Yeah, it's like 3 states away from you. Well, you know. Skeleton farm, spider farm. Oh, spider farm is that way. That way for spider farm. Cool. Buns. Misk, broken magic armor. Arrows. Goes in the floor. Trapdoor, control up, collect XP, down, hold XP. Up, spawn off, down, spawn on. My area is an anthill in the Empire server, I get it. Yeah. It's very anthill vibes. Let's just have it hold XP. Yeah, they're coming. Just gotta wait here for a minute. Just gotta wait. Aw, man, guys. I've been working on my new model. It's looking really good. It's looking really good. No sneak peeks, though. unless you're in my house. I can't keep the sneak peeks away from everybody. But yeah. Yeah. It's so cool. I'm so excited. I think it'll be the best one yet. And maybe I can stop messing with the design after that. I finally heard someone else say that I have good character design. Like, I say I have good character design all the time. And finally someone else said I have good character design, because my model basically looks like me in real life, just with like color adjustments. And obviously I'm not. Oh, immersion break. Oh no, immersion break. I'm not a doll in real life. Oh no. But yeah, so my model basically looks like me in real life. And finally someone else told me that I have good character design. Because I always thought I had good character design, and then someone, but yeah, so someone else told me I had good character design. And it made me very happy. My immersion! Oh no! What do you mean Jack is not the say-so idol we all thought they were? I am very say-so. Just ask anyone who tries to make a dirty joke around me. I don't get it. I won't get it. I truly will not get it. But yeah. So. I'm very excited. Why do I feel like the XP is like getting trapped? Like, why can't I have that little bit of XP? I don't know. Just hang out here for a sec. How was your weekend, chat? Did you do anything cool this weekend? I said it before. I'll say it again. I did pottery painting yesterday. We went pottery painting for my birthday, and I made a little hobbit house mug and a little pond plate to go with it. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. There will be pictures once I get them back. But I don't think I actually took any pictures. I was so prepared. I brought 2 cameras and my phone. I was so prepared to take pictures this time, and I didn't. I think a few other people got pictures, but yeah. I was just like, I'm just gonna enjoy this. So, yeah. I saw the Dark Crystal in theater for the Henson Company's 70th anniversary. You worked unpaid overtime yesterday. Well, Kenjamin, that's a very cool thing to do this weekend. Dan, what happened? Oh no! That's awful. Why didn't you get paid for your work? Hey, what? You weren't supposed to be able to shoot me. Worked overtime, but thankfully it was paid. The choice of being a salaried employee. Oh, yeah. My dad, that happens to my dad too. Salary. Yeah, my dad is salaried, I think. And yeah, he does minimal work as he can. Like, he still gets all of the things he needs to get done, but other than that, he doesn't really bother. Why do I feel like I'm not getting... Like, look at all that XP that's there. Did something break and I just, like... I'm gonna... That's the way to go. There's no sense in going above and beyond for an employer. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a bunch of... You're not supposed to spawn right now! Oh no! Up, collect XP. It's supposed to be like that? I have no idea. But it's also not giving me much XP, so... I don't know. Is that what the lava blade is? If I do that, and I just stand here, will it give me XP? I don't know. Oh, it turns on the lights. Okay, well, I'm bored. No. I'm lost in the back rooms. Just finished obsessively cleaning a game controller while waiting for a work meeting. Nice. All of my controllers are pretty clean, I think, currently. Yeah. Oh yeah, really funny thing that happened this weekend. So, if you're in the Blacking crew, you may have seen the doll that my grandma got me for my birthday. Well, on Sunday, I opened two more presents with the same doll. It's so funny. I guess this is why you shouldn't rank what you want for your birthday. But yeah, it was really funny. And I was talking to my mom, and she was like, yeah, I would never do that. I would always go like a few, like 1 or 2 down the list, because everyone's gonna want to try and get you the one you say is your favorite. Do a lot of retro gaming, so whenever I order a controller, I feel compelled to dismantle the entire thing and give it, yeah, a super deep cleaning. Yeah. It's definitely important to clean old stuff. So how many did you end up with? 3. I have 3. No, one person took it back and basically said, I'll keep this one. I'll keep this one, and you can, I'll get you a different one. And she got me, so I have Draculaura, and she got me Frankie. So now I have 2 from the same line, which is cool. And my dad took back the one from my Grammy. She lives in Texas, so she can't really, like, I think we're gonna return it, and we'll figure it out. But because I didn't really want to have 3 of them. As much as I like collecting the dolls, like, I don't need 3 of them. So yeah, but it was funny. It was very funny just to keep opening the same doll over and over again. And the funny thing is, like, Nomi, like, felt the present that my Grammy had sent me, because it was in, like, a big Amazon bag, and she was like, I really hope this isn't the same thing I got you. And then it was. And I opened Nomi's present, and I was like, oh no, this is the one that my grandma got me. I'm so grateful, but oh no. Like, what are you supposed to, like, I'm autistic. I truly do not know. What are you supposed to do in that moment? Because, like, I try to be, like, very grateful and be like, oh, thank you so much, but, like, I already have this one. Like, is that what you're supposed to do? Or is there, like, some protocol? Was I supposed to pretend I didn't already have it? But then I would have opened a second one anyways. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I think I sent my dad a message, too. Let me look. No, maybe not. Maybe it's on my phone. I don't know. Maybe I texted him. But I swear that I was like, oh my god, look what grandma got me for my birthday. I know I put it in the Black King Crew, and I know I put it in, and I know I put it in, like, a socially rough moment. I'm ADHD, I don't always get the social cues myself. Yeah! What are we supposed to do? Like, luckily everyone knows that I'm autistic in my family, like, everyone knows, and everyone else in my family is autistic. So, but it was very funny. I don't think anyone, like, had any hard feelings about it or anything. My Grammy might have, and I don't know because she's neurotypical. She's, like, one of the only people in my family who's, like, at least socialized neurotypical. You know what I mean? Like, when someone has been pretending for so long that they know all the rules, so they're, like, they, like, appear neurotypical. Like, I don't know if she actually is, or if she's just been, like, kind of socialized that way. What am I doing? I should pull up the tutorial and build. Nobody's gonna mind. I should continue my tree. Where is it? There it is. Okay. I just try to say thank you and be grateful. My primary partner has gotten me the same terrible chocolate 3 years in a row, despite me politely telling her no when I tried them the first year. Oh no! That's awful! My mom this year sent us all a message in our like house chat. And she said, "Hey guys, I know you're not eating the Christmas candy. I know you're not eating the Christmas candy. What do you actually want in your stocking?" So I actually have to, that's my mission today. My mission today, after stream, is to find a bunch of little things that I want in my stocking. Actually, I should... You guys want to go shopping with me? No, we're playing Minecraft. We're playing Minecraft. Actually, what I really want is, like, D&D patches. Because I got this big D&D bag. Oh, bag of holding patch. Well, that's on the nose. But I got this D&D bag, but it's... In her defense, I'm probably very difficult to gift for. I guarantee you are not. Okay, here's the thing. My love language is gifts. My love language is gifts. I absolutely love giving gifts. I love receiving gifts. And if you get me a little trinket, I'm going to love you forever. But I absolutely love giving gifts. And everyone has something that you can give them, unless they're like my brother. My brother has a little bit of trauma around gift giving and like people expecting things back from him from gifts. So for him, I won't get him anything unless he specifically requests it. But most everyone has a gift that they will consistently like. You just have to get to know someone enough. So it's hard for people who gift giving is not their love language. But yeah. It is possible to get a gift for everyone. You just have to get to know them enough. Um, but yeah. Ooh, I like this bag. I got distracted looking at patches. I'm sorry. Just, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take a quick break to reset my brain and get me back into like building mode. And then I will come back and we're gonna work on this tree here. So, BRB. Okay. What is playing music? What is playing music? Where did that come from? This should not even be open right now. Sorry, I don't know what that was. I don't think it came through the stream. I think it just confused me. Alright, well, that's fine. I need to close my windows, actually. One sec. Okay, so the weather. Something exciting happened last week. Re-gifting. My partner goes to a lot of concerts. But she saw my favorite band. She's doing a concert in DC in February. So she braved the Ticketmaster queue and bought us 2 tickets. Oh, that's so nice! That's so nice! I could never. I could never brave the Ticketmaster queue. I also concerts are definitely not my thing. I'm a very anxious person, but that sounds like a lovely time. But yeah, so I'm gonna get up there. How am I gonna get up there? I need my wood. I need my blocks. Let's see how far we can get with this many blocks. Probably not very. But yeah, so the weather report apparently it was like the weather report's like it's gonna rain and then it's gonna thunderstorm. But it's like the clearest day I've seen in a long time. So I don't know what's up with that weather report. The weather report has not been accurate for months. All right, let's see. I have to really like the band or my social anxiety isn't gonna be worth it. Yeah. Yeah. How am I gonna get myself up this tree? I got parkour. 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 Nope. I didn't parkour. I didn't parkour. I didn't parkour. Need to parkour. Dang it. Dang it. Okay, now I'm further down the tree. I need to make like a ladder on the inside. I love some rain and thunder, so relaxing. Yeah, but it's like super clear today, so I don't know what the weather report is smoking, but they need some better meteorologists over here. Something's not working. Alright, let me get some scaffolding. Okay. And we'll make our way up the tree. There we go. Okay. So... let me just look at my tutorial for a second. A big crow outside. Maybe a raven. Why are we doing the diagonals first? Okay. Where? Okay. Let me see here. Let me see what's, because this shape got out of whack. This is the middle. Doesn't help that the Fed, who employed most of the actual meteorologists in the country, fired all the meteorologists in January. So now local weather stations can't just copy their notes, so to speak. Oh, is that what happened? What? You're so much braver with those high walkways than I am. Thank you. I don't know if that's true, actually. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Something happened here while I was texturing that now has made this confusing. And I think what I'm gonna do is guess. Okay, this is 1. Afterwards, claim all your stuff with the ground. Yeah. So I think that's 1. And this is 1. Over here. I'm definitely not perfect, but I've been playing video games for a very long time. Okay, let's do that. That seems right. And then, so if that's the middle. Okay, I'll put 1 here. Okay, it's like this. And then that. So 1, 2. Woo! 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then a 5. So 1, 2, 3. 4, 5. This one I think is going to be pretty difficult to texture. But I'm just going to get the planning stages done. Oops. Yeah, we have a few mods to help with clumsiness. Well, we have one. It's graveyard. It's gravestones. So when you die, you don't entirely lose everything. Okay, so that's one diagonal. The next one should be here. So this, and then 2. Then there's 2 3s. And then a 5. 4, 5. It doesn't really matter if this is the most accurate because it's a tree. And it should be a little organic, but I want to start with a structure and then get organic, so it's not completely crazy. Okay. It's like here. Oh, it got very dark very fast. That's fine. Two, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I have one more diagonal, but I think do I want to go down and sleep? I want to sleep in real life. I'm tired. Very, very tired. Okay. I don't think anything should spawn up here while I'm up here, so it's probably fine. 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Did I mess that one up? Maybe. Spider creeper and zombie all spawn surrounding you. Yeah. Shit, this is not important. Very hard to see with the sun in my eyes. My creaky chair. Sorry, my chair is like the creakiest thing ever. Okay. I think I did this one wrong. I think I missed a 3 because there's 2 3s. 1, 2, 2, 3. Yeah. 2, 3. 1. I think your mic canceled the creaking out. Oh, that's nice. It doesn't usually. I get comments of people being like, wow, your chair is so creaky. I'm like, thank you, I guess. It's not a compliment, but you know, I'll take it. I'll take your comment. You're talking about me, so that's all that matters. All right. It's usually my friends who pop in here, and they like to mess with me. Comments about my keyboard, yeah. Okay. So we have I specifically bought the loudest and clackiest keyboard I could because the feel and sound is satisfying to me when I'm using it. Some people really like the clacky keyboards. I'm more of a thock person myself. My keyboard has very nice tactile feel without being too loud. I think I need to give up on trying to make sure that my wood is all facing the same direction, because I truly cannot be bothered right now. I think it probably has to do with nostalgia for most Likely. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I feel like old keyboards are definitely more clacky. Okay. So once again, we have this one. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some long branches. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing with the rest of the, like, village that I have planned. But currently the plan is tree. The plan is tree. That's the plan. Oh, it's starting to get light again. Good, because I cannot see anything. My windows being super sunny probably isn't helping. Let me actually... I can fix part of this problem. Just... There we go. Close my curtains here. And then the sun won't be in my eyes. And then if the sun's not in my eyes, I can see my screen a little better. There we go. Much better. And the sun's out in the game now. Never thought to do a tree fort / base before. I've always tried to dig into the side of a hill or something, surround it with lights and lava moats. That's cool. My dad's doing something similar, where he's sort of made a little ant hill. And Kenj on the other server has done a little ant hill as well. I like to try something new and challenge myself on each server or world that I play on. So I like to try and do something new each time. But I've never really ended up finishing a project. That's kind of my problem, is I've never really finished a base, per se. And I really want to do something like hermit crafty this server, so that's the plan. Probably keeps the gameplay from getting too stagnant. Yeah. I try to have good. Yeah. I'm gonna go collect all of the dirt that I dropped. Variety. That's the word I was looking for. Good variety. I've never finished a project. ADHD. Yeah. 100%. I tend to get bored in Minecraft, and I'll be like, okay, I'm done now. And I can sort of start. I'm sort of like feeling it a little bit now. Oh, I missed one. I don't know why I thought I was done if I missed one. That's fine. Just pick up all this dirt that I dropped. It definitely, yep, that's a tree. Finished tree. What do you guys think? Finished base. So good, right? Such a good base. It looks like it looks like those Play-Doh things with the hair, and you like squish the Play-Doh through and it makes hair. That's what it looks like. I saw a dirt block somewhere. There it is. Sometimes you need a perspective change. All right, let's do this last one. I do have plenty of wood still, so 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Reminds me of the World Tree from Dragon Quest, or the Tree of Gaia from Mind of Mana. I don't think I played that one. Well, I haven't even heard of it, actually. But you could also compare it to, like, the Great Deku Tree, or... There's a lot of trees in video games. Ah, Legend of Mana. Alright, now we just do the thing that we did with the branches. Or the roots. Could say the Deku trees, too. Yeah, someone said Deku tree the other day, I think. The Grand Deli tree! That's funny. Great Deli tree is cracking me up still. Oh, Great Deli tree, what is your wisdom? Sandwich. Actually, that's fine. If I could pluck ham and Swiss on sourdough off a tree, I'd be in paradise. Yeah, you and Bleck both. Bleck loves sandwiches. It's their favorite. I had a dog who really loved sandwiches. We said it was his favorite food is sandwiches. I'm very food motivated, same. We have a giant bowl of mashed potatoes from my birthday yesterday, and you bet I am going to be all up in those potatoes as soon as stream is over. I'm so ready for more potato-y goodness. I love potatoes. Just picturing a deli worker standing behind one of those glass deli counters. And instead of meats and cheeses, there's just a huge tree behind them. That's so good. That's so funny. Dream job right there. Can't just like screw food packaging. I want to work for the food tree. The Tamagotchi is awake. Unfettered access to all the sandwiches I can eat? Hell yeah. It's pretty good. Pretty good job. It is customer service, but I don't know, I feel like maybe the sandwich tree offsets some of the some of the bad service vibes. I fell off the tree. Actually, how's this branch looking? Okay. It's not bad. I think once I have leaves up there, it'll be fine. I've become a sandwich baron, and if you cross me, no sandwiches. That's so funny. I mean, what are they gonna do? You're the only one who can talk to the tree. So I would rule with an iron fist. I would visit your sandwich shop every day, Kenj. I want to go to the sandwich tree. I feel like the sandwich tree, maybe the sandwich tree chooses who to allow sandwich. Ooh, yeah. But happily share sandwiches with you. Aw, thank you, Kenj. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Actually, you know what is truly the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me? Is the other day I was out with my friends, and one of my newer friends said, "You know, Jack, I want you to take this as a compliment." And I was like, "Uh-oh, here we go." But they said you would fix all of Pixar's problems if you were a Pixar character. And I was like, that's so nice. Like, what the heck? understand what's happening here anymore. This branch might be crazy. I don't quite know where I fell off either. The diagonals were really hard on the other one too. On the bottom ones, the diagonal branches are very difficult to manage. It'll be fine. That's probably good enough. There's something funky happening here. I'm not quite sure how to fix it. It's fine. That's fine. This is fine. The the straight branches are much easier to deal with than the diagonal branches. I am unfortunately a diagonal branch myself. It's not bad. Okay, looking at it from here, it's not bad. It's not that bad. Okay. Let's see. Cool. Have you ever dived into the house flipper games? I went kind of crazy on remodeling my own house in those games. Very satisfying. I love house flipper. I want to play the second one, but I don't have it. I haven't been able to get it yet. But maybe I'll do that on stream at some point. Maybe I'll get house flipper 2 and we'll play it together. Something. Hang on. I want to be above this, not next to it. There we go. Okay. They did a good job with the sequel. I made a giant 3-story house that's 4 times taller than it is wide. Wow. That sounds so fun, actually. Yeah, I don't love the art. The reason I stopped playing the first game was I didn't really love the art style, and it was hard to make the things that I wanted to make. But I think with the second one, I'll actually be able to do it, so. World's only ranch style home / skyscraper. Incredible. Style home / skyscraper is so funny. Each one of these diagonal ones is such an adventure. The second one still has some restrictions, but I found it a lot more flexible than the first. Yeah, from what I've seen, that seems to be the case. So I definitely want to get it. The game that I'm really excited for, though, oh my god, Paralives. If you are at all into The Sims, Paralives is going to be the next Sims. Like, it's... Ah! Where? Oh. I guess he spawned over there. I guess skeletons can spawn up here. But yeah, Paralives looks so good. I've been playing The Sims 4 since it came out. The Sims 4 is not a perfect game. I continue to buy the expansions. But now... Now... There's some politics stuff happening with EA that I'm not particularly into. So I'm probably not gonna buy any more expansions for The Sims 4. I bought Adventure Awaits, and then I found out about what was happening and who was buying EA. And yeah, let's just say, not my idea of a good time there. So, yeah. I just picked up Ghost of Yotai, and it has so many things I love. Item collection, armor customization, and fun gameplay. Yeah, it kind of sucks, but I figured out how to yo-ho-ho the rest of the content. Yeah, I probably could yo-ho-ho the content, honestly. I probably should yo-ho-ho the content. Given how expensive it is. But, yeah, so. EA has been a dumpster fire for a while, but this is just the nail in the coffin for me. Like, before it's been like, yeah, EA kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And now it's like, oh, no, that goes against everything that I am. You actively hate me. as a non-binary ace person, you know, part of the LGBT community, it's like, oh, you hate me specifically now. Okay. Like, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, right? Truly, we live in a world where life sucks, and if you want to buy the silly game, buy the silly game. However, my patience has its limits. And actively going against me as a person and my family and my friends, that's where I draw the line. I I am a person who wants things now. So unless I absolutely have to, I don't tend to use like Amazon because I want to just go get the thing that I need. But to do that, like, I need to have stores in the real life. How did I miss one? Anyways, so what was I talking about? I was talking about going to Target. That's what I was talking about. So like people were boycotting Target, and honestly Target's one of my favorite stores because I can actually just go there and get pretty much anything that I want. And I was like, I don't actually see a reason. Like it was I understand that people really felt very strongly about them like shrinking the size of their LGBT their pride section. But here's the thing. They still had a pride section, at least where I live. And they probably, maybe not on purpose, but they probably protected their employees by doing that. Because some angry person goes into Target and sees that section, they're not gonna call corporate and be mad at corporate. They're gonna, assault some poor worker, minimum wage worker. So that's my opinion on the Target situation. Is that, honestly, it's not as big a deal as people are making it out to be. In that one particular case. In that one particular case, I don't think it's as bad as people seem to think it is. And I don't think we need to stop shopping at stores who are just trying to figure out how to keep up with what the hell is going on. Because can you keep up with what the hell is going on? I can't. I think another part of the problem was that they canceled a lot of the prominent artists and creators for their prominent pride stuff and replaced it with AliExpress knockoffs to get out of giving money to LGBTQIA creators. I didn't hear about that one. I didn't hear about that. That's shitty. That is truly shitty. But again, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, and I still think Target is one of the better ones. Yes, they do shitty stuff. Yes, I would much rather buy from smaller stores if I can. But guess what? I can't. Like, the smaller stores do not exist. They've been pushed out by all of these big corporations, and you just have to pick and choose which corporations you think are the least bad at this point. If I can find the smaller stores, I will absolutely buy from the smaller stores. But even when you look at, like, Etsy is supposed to be a collection of... Etsy is supposed to be a collection of creatives and small businesses that can have more advertisement because Etsy is a bigger website. And do you know what Etsy is full of? AliExpress knockoffs. Yeah, you have to pick the lesser of the evils. Okay, that's not bad. I don't hate that. I gotta get more wood now, though. I'm out of wood now. But I don't feel like collecting wood right now, so... Half the stuff on Etsy is drop-shipped from sweatshops. Yes, exactly. Target Corporate decided to cut their diversity practices, and people are pissed that their corporate sided with racism. So I get the boycott. It also worked. Their investors were pissed. You know what? If it works, it works. Yeah, people were pissed at their corporate side. Yeah. If it works, it works. Absolutely. But we also have to remember, I think, a little bit of nuance. Because I think people see someone shopping in a place that they are boycotting, and they immediately think, oh, that person's a bad person. When in reality, like, maybe Target is the only store that they have besides Walmart. Yeah, there's no requirement to join the boycott. It's an accessibility thing. Yeah. Oh, the Tamagotchi calls. All right, what ridiculously priced thing do you want me to buy today? It's a jump rope for $900. No, thank you. Oh, it's a jump rope for $550. I found it's handy to contact a creator on Etsy and ask them a basic question or two about their product. If they don't know anything about it, it's drop shipping. That's fair. I also find that... Oh, did I accidentally say yes? Oh, that's fine. And he's mad. He's mad that I don't have the money for it. Well, that's fine, because I didn't actually want to buy it anyways. The other thing about Etsy is I find that the more niche your search is, the less likely you are to find dropshipped stuff. So, like, a lot of D&D stuff, if you go to Etsy for D&D stuff, a lot of it is not dropshipped, because D&D is just too niche of a thing for like AliExpress stuff to like really permeate it. Like, you can find it, obviously, you can find dropshipped D&D stuff, but it's less likely, I find. Well, it is nighttime. So, like, the more specific your search is, the less likely you are to find drop-shipped stuff. Although if you're a VTuber, oh my god, if you're a VTuber looking for or a streamer looking for stuff on Etsy, the amount of AI is disgusting. It is actually gross. See a lot of oddball custom D&D dice, etc. Like drop shipped stuff? I don't see a lot of drop shipped stuff for D&D on Etsy, but maybe I'm just missing it somehow. Yeah. It's actually, like, the amount of AI is gross. Like, people are, like, AI generating VTuber models and then minimally rigging them. Do you know how long this model took me to make? Like, a month, at least, of active working time. There are some pixelated dice sets I want off Etsy, but I'm not about to drop $70 to get that. Oh, yeah. And fuck AI. Yeah, fuck AI. I'm learning to make my own dice. That's another hobby that I'm getting into right now, is learning to make my own dice. It's gonna be awesome. This was around 2021, 2022. It might have gotten better since then. I hope so. Resin casting? That shit is fun. Yeah, resin casting. And, like, making my own dice molds with, like, my own dice masters and stuff. We have all the supplies. I just need to, like, get into it. So the next time I'm at my dad's, I'm gonna start messing with it again and seeing if he wants to help me with that. Resin casting is super great. I make my own custom terrain that way. Ooh, with resin casting? Interesting. I use 3D printing for all of my terrain and stuff just because it's fast. I have a little resin printer that I use for minis, and then I have a larger FDM printer. It's the Bamboo X1 Carbon. That I use for terrain and stuff, because I found when I used the resin printer for like larger terrain, I found a bunch of like uncured resin in them at one point. Like I printed a bunch of little terrain pieces for a pirate ship that I was making, like little barrels and stuff, and like 3 years later they started leaking like uncured resin, and I threw them all away. I make it in clay first and then clone it with resin. Ooh, clay. I'm not good with real clay. I'm okay with digital clay, but real clay is not, I'm not great with. Give me all your emeralds. I just want to collect as many emeralds as I can. Good progress. Good progress on this tree today, I think. I have to do a bunch of like wood mining, and I have to get up there and like round everything out, but it's a good start. It's a good start. And then once it's covered in leaves, I think it'll look better too. Because it can cover up a bit of the like rough spots with leaves. But it's pretty good. Make that Emerald City, baby! In the Emerald City. Yeah. Oh, I gotta make sure all of my emeralds are in the same place. There we go. And I still don't have enough XP for... Like, is something broken? Or do I truly not have any levels? Oh, it doesn't have mending. This doesn't have mending. Yeah, maybe I just don't have, like, any levels. Okay, well, that's fine. Let me make sure I don't have any wood around here that I dropped. I don't see any. But you never know, maybe I dropped something. Just to make sure. Do a quick little run around. I want to get enough emeralds to make Seattle. Good with clay for terrain, but I can never do something organic, so living with the medium. It's hard. It's hard to make something. Period. Being able to like make things with your own hands is hard. I need to get some, I need to mine this and get the dirt out of it. Get dirt into it. Cause I got a lot of these like ugly spots here. And I need, now that I have a silk touch pick. Hang on, if I... Do I need silk touch? I love watching kit bashing on YouTube. Black Magic Craft is great for creating terrain out of found objects. Oh, that's so cool. BMC Studson Studios is another great channel. Ooh, I'll have to check those guys out. When you said kit bashing, though, I immediately thought of Hero Forge, which I use Hero Forge for like all of my minis. I love the I love it. I love it. If I could like sculpt my own minis, I would do that. But since I can't, using Hero Forge is like, oh, look at this, chests don't have shadows. Since I can't, then Hero Forge is like the coolest. Steady crafting. I'll have to check these guys out. That sounds cool. If I need to, okay, hang on. I need all of my tools away. I need a campfire. I need coal for that. Ah, sticks. Let me make some campfires real quick. Because if I do this, and this has silk touch. Oh, please work, please work, please work. Wait, maybe I need to do all of them. Hang on, let me do all of them. And then can I... Ah! No, they got mad, they got mad, they got mad. Oh, I feel bad. Is it cause... Wait. Silk touch just use the bee nest to self drops, and any bees remain inside. This is silk touch. Why didn't it work? Gotta have smoke from a fire pit to calm them down. But I did! I did! Was it too far away? Okay, silk touch. I don't want to destroy all of the beehives. There's one more over there. Let me just put that there. I put it directly under the hive. Okay, let me try that. Let me hang on. It might have been a my god, oh my god, oh my god! Yes! Yes! Okay, now we can make a bee farm! I feel bad for those bees. Okay, so how do I make a bee farm? Uh-oh. What are you doing here? And why do you have a enchanted sword? I thought it was diamond for a second. I think I just want to build like a bee room. I don't think I actually want to build a bee farm. I want to... Wow, wow, zombies. I thought I lit up this whole place. What is happening? I don't know why I was using that sword. Let's see. Okay, so this is down. And then I want to go up. That. When you fill it with bees? Yeah, the bee room will have bees. Okay. And then 3. And then it's got, we've got 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3. And is it on the outside or the inside? It's the outside. Like that. 1. Wait, is this... Would this be correct? Because it would be... Yeah, it's still correct. Okay. And then it's 1, 2... 1, 2, 3 on the outside. We may have to carve out some of this. 1. And then it's the square. Kind of gotta keep the ones that... Okay, and then it's the other way around. So it's... We've got... that. And then three. Wait. One, 2, 3. One, like that. No. Hey, Anemo Rite, how you doing today? It's too fun to say. I can't stop. How does this... I had a whole diagram, and now I don't. So I know it's like that, I think. And then it should be... Okay. So we have this, and then the square, and then it goes 1, 2, 3 on the side. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 on the side, and then 1, and then 1, 2, 3. I see. Like that. And then so that, and then a straight one. Okay. And then three. Um, gotta kind of use my space a little wisely here. Do I want to just do like this high? I don't know. I think I want to go as high up as I can. Let's see. It's gonna be kind of a weird staircase. It's not gonna be quite like as good as the other staircase, but that's okay, I think. I think if I just keep repeating this, it's actually okay. It's working. It's not exactly a circle, but it's working. Okay, I've gone a full circle, so that's, I think, where I should. But I want the floor to be a full block. So we'll go up one more. Can the floor be lava? The floor's not gonna be lava. Floor's gonna be wood. Can you imagine lava in a treehouse? Sounds like a bad idea. The floor isn't lava! I can finally come down! Oh no, Kenj, how long have you been stuck up there? No! I stripped a log! That idea sounds fire. It's bad. Nah, I stripped another one. Okay, I gotta go slowly. Just because you can go fast doesn't mean you should go fast. What did I just say? Just because you can go fast doesn't mean you should go fast. Jack. Slow it down. I was trying to get all of the horizontal blocks out. Because they're a little obvious once you start getting up here. That one will have to stay. I'm still not seeing any evidence of rain. And it's supposed to rain in half an hour. So I don't know what the heck the weather report is on about. But I think that means I get to leave my windows open today. I was worried I'd have to keep them closed all day. It gets kind of stuffy in here when I do that. Alright. That should be good. Nice little staircase up to what will be the bee room. Let me go silk touch a grass block. Let me see. Where is there a grass block that I can take? I can take this one. So I think we need some grass for the bees. You gonna put a TV in the bee room? Probably not. Not quite sure why I would. How will you watch the bee movie? I don't think I want to watch I don't think I want the bees to watch a movie about bee riots. About like the outside world. Why would I want that? They're gonna be trapped in here. I don't want to make them sad. So the bees can watch their favorite shows. Trying to keep the bees obedient through ignorance. Textbook repression. Oh, you've seen the way we keep our villagers. Free to bees. Oh no, no, don't. You're gonna start a revolution. Don't do that. The bees bees can't revolt? Ugh, there's gonna be so much paperwork. You wanted to avoid bee movie. You ended up with a bug's life. Okay. Mm-hmm. Find bees and bring them back to that beehive. Bring them with flowers. They can't locate their old hive. They should live in the new hive. I've never even seen ants. Honeycomb, shears, beehive or bee nest. Reach honey level 5. Oh, wait, you guys. I have a better idea. Instead of putting the bees in here, what if we make a beehive for the giant tree? What if we put a beehive on the giant tree? We make a giant beehive for the giant tree, and we like hang it from one of the branches. And then we put the bee farm in there. Let's do that. So this room will be something else. This room will be something else. Maybe I'll put my bedroom in here. I'll move my bed. Move my bed up here. And this will be like my bedroom. It'll be a little bit annoying, but acorn storage. Okay, what am I gonna build the beehive out of? I searched for beehive and I got a bunch of wasp nests, and that's not That's not the same thing. Kinda something like that. I'm not seeing a lot of like cute beehive builds, which is like surprising to me. Yeah, this is what I want, I think. Okay, first we gotta make this like egg shape. And then we can, let's see. I want to hang it off of this one, I think. I want to hang it off of that one. Let's see. Probably about... It'd be cool to put it like here. There's a skeleton up here. Oh no, maybe there's a skeleton below here. But yeah, like about here. I want to just put a mark. I don't quite know how we're gonna get into the beehive yet. Probably some little like staircase. But I want plenty of room to build it first. And then let's figure this out. Wait, let me see if I can get this into a creative world. Let me see. Minecraft. How to use light. Options, controls, keybinds. Can we find... Litmatica isn't on here. Okay. If I... Litmatica survival mode controls. Copy. Area selection. So I think I need to go up here. Yeah. Okay. Area selection. Okay, I have the area selected. And then if I disconnect from here, go to single player. And then if I Lighmatica controls are not in here. What? Oh, distant horizons. Options, distant horizons. Enable distant generation. True. No. Advanced options. Logging. Debug. Graphics. Enable rendering. Keep going. Building. Okay, I don't know how to turn this off. Oh, maybe I did. Maybe I did turn it off. Okay. See, that's the problem is, okay. Controls, keybinds. Why is music so loud all of a sudden? Where is... Hang on, wait, what if it's... No, it's not. Okay. Controls, keybinds... Zeros... Yeah. That might not work either, but I just need this. I need... I'm just gonna change it to left alt plus A. pause. Oh, don't spell P. Anytime it says M, I'm gonna change it to left alt. Now I can go back into controls and put my map back. Okay. Schematic manager. Tree. Import. No, I just need to... Schematic placements. I need a stick. Load schematics. There we go. Creative mode. Matica. Place. Model. Grid paste schematic into world. Must be able to see the tool HUD on the bottom left. Make sure the correct placement is selected. Make sure the correct placement. Use the execute operation hotkey. What is that? Configuration menu. Execute. Execute operation. Execute operation is going to be left alt and enter. There we go. Okay. Loaded schematics. Unload. Cool. So now we have our tree here. Here's my dirt. Here's my dirt. I'm small now. What do I wanna build this out of? I think maybe yellow terracotta would be nice. Let me just quickly. That's not correct. Hi, Luke. We're figuring out. We're figuring out how to build a beehive right now. Alright, let's go with this. Do I want concrete or terracotta, though? I think maybe terracotta. I was considering making my whole base bee themed on the Aether server. I'm just building a. Well, I was, because I have the permits for honey, and I'm in a big birch forest, so I've got a bunch of bees. I was wrong and correct at the same time. What if I did just like alternate? I'm building a giant tree, so I'm hanging the beehive off of the tree, as you can see. Giant tree. I may have to buy extreme amounts of honey off of you. I don't know if I'll have extreme amounts of honey, but we'll see. You forgot! Hello! How could you forget? How could you? How dare you? Everyone shame Blackboot for forgetting about my stream. It's okay. We had a we had a busy day yesterday. Wow, look how powerful I am. Ken just said it twice. Luke said it twice. That's so funny. Let's see who is more powerful. Oh no. Oh no. No! Don't shame me! What are you shaming me for? What have I done? What have I done? No! Thank you, Kenjamin. Mild shame for the lulz. I think I win. No, I think I win. I am the most powerful streamer. Ha 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 ha. I forgot to turn... Do daylight cycle. Okay. Do I like the stripes? I kind of do. Okay, and then just same again. Unlimited power! I wish I had like terracotta stairs, because I'd do stairs here. What about, what do I have for stairs? Bamboo? Spruce? Oh, I kind of like that. I do kind of have to fudge it a little bit here. I have to figure out what to do there. I guess just a block. To be fair, if we were in Blackstream, I would have shamed. yeah, no, totally. It 100% depends on whose stream it is. That's the law. You have to either side with the streamer or bully relentlessly. And how could you bully something so cute as me? It's like, who would win, Batman or Superman? Well, it depends on what comic you're in. Yeah. True. For the corners, you could put slabs and planks behind the stairs. I could, but I think... I don't know. I'm not even sure that I like this. Actually, now that I like zoom out. Is that correct? I think I'll just leave it the way it is. Like, I'll do the alternating here. I don't know. I'll mess with it. I want to get the shape first, though, I think. Okay, I think I need to move it down a bit. Is that too big? It's like a little bit too big, I think. It's too big. It's too big. It's too big. It's too big. This is why we're trying this in creative mode. In my experience with bees, they'll take any excuse possible not to build a hive in the stereotypical way. My grandfather actually keeps bees and removes them from places they shouldn't be, upstanding member of the community and all that jazz. And one time he had to get a hive out from somebody's floorboards. I saw a video the other day where these bees really liked this person's planter. Like, they had this planter, this very tall planter outside their house, and there were so many bees in there. It was crazy. Okay. How do I actually want to do this? I want it to be like this. And then... I've definitely seen some weird places for bees to make a hive. Yeah. But we're doing stereotypical bees today. Cartoony bees. Let's see. We have a colony of mason wasps live in our balcony. Ew. I don't like wasps. I don't like wasps. I think if wasps didn't exist, I wouldn't be so afraid of bees. You know? Mason wasps are apparently one of the only non-aggressive types of wasps. They'll just chill nearby you as long as you don't go after them. See, but, like, what does a bug think going after them means? Is the problem. Like, trying to smash it, etc. Hornets have photographic memory? That's terrifying. I hate that. Yeah, Black and I are on the same fucking page. I hate that. I don't like that one bit. Hoping the fake nest trick works for hornets as well. Ooh. I don't like it. I don't like it. Like it. Yeah, yeah, for real. Good use of that emote. Eh. I'm horrified. Absolutely horrified. Africanized bees, also known as killer bees, are hyper aggressive. Oh my god. Ew. I'll take my cute Minecraft bees, thanks. Yeah, cute Minecraft bees. I think I'm liking this design. I'd rather have Silk Song, please. I have not heard the sound they make. I don't think I want to. It's adorable. Oh, okay. We're talking about horrifying things, so I was in that mindset. Okay, that's cute. Um, I saw a React video once where a guy sneaks up and puts a cup over a hornet on the side of a tree. Oh, oh no. Oh no. That's, yeah. That's all. That's horrible. That's a bad day. That is in fact a bad day. Oh, we don't have shelves. We don't have shelves. I can't even try. Can't even try. Oh, this is what I was worried about. Is that, well, it looks cute. What if I do some yellow glass? On the other side, we'll have the same thing, and then, or maybe we'll put a door. I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna get inside this thing. That's the big question here. This is our upper floor. And if we could I create some sort of mechanical abomination to launch you into the B room? Maybe, but I don't I'm not quite sure I want to. Kind of want to create like pretty stuff. Okay, let me see. The true purpose of redstone. Yeah. My main world is filled with a massive cart system that could take me to any of my separate biome bases within a few minutes. The central hub has like 30 rails all conjoining there. Wow! I feel like that's what Bleck wanted for um the the thing with the stuff. You guys know. The Nether hub. But like couldn't quite get it to work. If I put a gate, maybe a door. So in here we need some grass. Meanwhile, chat's being silly. This will make it smaller, but I feel like it's gonna be really cute, so I don't care. Can I get away with glowstone? Yeah, I feel like that's fine. Maybe if I... that? Is that a little better? Silly! Shroomlight looks... class... Oh, honey blocks are classed as transparent. Wait, hang on. Can I just... Oh, honey blocks. Okay, honey, honey, honey. Okay, I see. Yeah, maybe the shroom light. That's gonna be annoying. That's cool though. I like that. Okay. So we need flowers, and I think the wild flowers do count. Let me just throw a bunch in here. Just fill the floor with wildflowers. Simple. So if I set this up, like this. No, I think... You'd have to use a dropper with shears / bottles, no? Yeah. So I don't think they can burn themselves here. So if I just leave it like this, they should sort of slowly claim these. Guppies! Okay. Do these have to be put out? There's no production loss. Okay. And then they said consider surrounding them with trapdoors. Ah, sorry, B. Because they're kind of stupid. Okay, so like that. So they can't hurt themselves. Can't put any more wildflowers in here. I could also... I could leave this open so that they can like fly around and get more honey. I don't know if I'll lose bees this way, but if Mojang's AI programming is to be trusted, the bees should come back at night or when it rains, or when they're like little, like honey. See, I can't get in here, but the bees can get out. Oh no, I should be able to. Okay. Not that that really matters. In fact, what if I do that? I could just close that off. No, I think I wanna leave it open. Oops. If I make it rain, are we gonna see bees coming back? I think maybe do the glass just to keep the bees safe, I think. Like, I really like being able to see in there. But there we go. I could also decorate this to look more like a branch. Let me just see where I can place blocks here. If I kind of decorate it like my other tree branches. Then it kind of looks like it's more natural. So that should help from the bottom there. And then we can balance it with something on the other side, maybe on the bottom. But for now, oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. I did not realize what time it was. Whoopsie. It is time. It is way past time. It is way past time. Oh, no stream today. Black never started. Black never started. Okay, I don't get any shame. I was about to say you can shame me now. But never mind. Never mind. But I do have other things to do today. So thank you so much for watching and hanging out. I have a model to work on today, so you know, maybe soon, maybe soon. I'll see you all on Wednesday for more Costume Quest with Penny. And then Thursday for more Baldur's Gate with Naomi, Moxie, and Blackwood themselves. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you on Wednesday.